Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sybongile Cook. I am the Director of Business Development and Strategy in the Deputy Mayor's Office for Planning and Economic Development. I am super excited to be here today and participating in the Business Over Brand Digital Summit. And we have some fantastic guests today. But before I do that, let me talk about what our title is today. What we're going to talk about today is how to build effective partnerships with district government. And so that is going to be the topic of our quick conversation that we're going to have. I'm excited to be here to grace you all today with two amazing entrepreneurs. And I'd like for them to introduce themselves. One is Madia Brown and the other is Callender. Madia, let's start with you. Would you introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are?
Yes, thank you. I want to first start by thanking for the opportunity to be here today. So my name is Madia Brown. I am the founder and chief storytelling strategist for Brandire. We are a creative marketing studio based in Washington, D.C. And so we were established in 2006, and we basically provide marketing services through the lens of storytelling. And so since that time, we've worked with nearly 100 clients locally, nationally, and internationally, spanning the U.S., Africa, and Europe. And we work with primarily multi-million-dollar organizations who service over 500,000 residents annually. And so our client list includes the National Museum of African American History and Culture, Johns Hopkins Medicine Sibley Memorial Hospital, McKinsey and Company, the Washington Post, the Center for Disease Control, to name a few. And we've also worked with nearly 20 local DC government agencies as well. And so we've been working with the District of Columbia government since 2017.
Nice. Thank you so much, Madia. And sir, would you like to introduce yourself?
Totally, definitely. Appreciate the opportunity again for celebrating this moment with you all. My name is Callender. I'm a DC native, born and raised, and I currently reside in Southwest DC. I am the owner of Sweet Nation, which is a CBE event firm. We focus on design and development in non-traditional spaces and places with corporate partners and entities to help revitalize communities across the city. But I'm also the co-founder of Sandlot Southeast and now Sandlot Georgetown, which are some of the off products of the Sweet Nation experiences that we partner with developers on, and a few other cultural institutions that you may be familiar with, Blind Wino, which is now Culture House. I'm also the co-founder of that from 2013. Again, just trying to find non-traditional ways to beautify our city and working with city government agencies to help bring that to a reality. So very excited to have this conversation today.
Fantastic. Thank you guys so much for being here. The both of you definitely have a history and a track record for collaborating with the district in a variety of ways. And so I think this is a great topic, and the fact that both of you are here, because then you can kind of share exactly how you did that, and maybe demystify what does engagement look like when you're looking to collaborate. And so definitely want to hear about some of your ideas. I'll share some things also that I see on this side of the house as well. But I think we need to demystify this so that folks understand that it is. It's important to know that you can't be afraid to not, speak. Yeah. All we can say from the district side or anyone is no. That's pretty much it. So if that's it, then everyone should be trying to find ways to collaborate and wanting to partner. And so I think you two are definitely two people who have found ways to do that. And so first, let me just start by asking, give me some background on maybe a project or something that had like a quick turnaround time on something that you had to do that you were able to complete, or for any particular agency. Are there any projects that you guys are currently working on or have worked on in the past with the district? And, how was that work? Sharing the ideas, thoughts. I think you guys both have very different approaches because these are obviously two different,
Yeah.
the work that you all do are separate and apart, but either one of you can start. Ian, if you wanted to.
I was gonna let Madia, I'm a gentleman by
Well, I will say thank you, Ian. I will say that as I mentioned in the intro, I've had the privilege of working with a lot of DC organizations and agencies, and I will say that almost all of the projects that I've worked on had some type of very fast turnaround or timeline. And so I think that if you want to do work with the city, I think being flexible and understanding how to meet a need and be able to respond quickly to requests is I think it's an inherent skill you will have to have. But in terms of one of the projects that I can kind of think of, like when I first started, working with local, with DC government, one of my first projects was actually with the DC Arts and Humanities. That was a very exciting project. It was a year project, but there were a lot of different deliverables that were required in order to be able to execute that. And so part of that included, doing historical research. I think at the time the agency was turning 50 years. And so, doing research on the background and we recorded over 50 podcasts and had to do a video and stuff like that. And so even though we had a year's time to actually do the work, it was, when it got down to the wire and about the contract being over, it was there was a decision that we wanted to use one of the deliverables for the Mayor's Arts Awards. And so at that time, there was a pivot and shift in terms of direction. And so we, the work that we've been working on for about 6 months, we had to literally pivot in like 2 weeks and kind of recreate everything. And I think that being able to have that level of flexibility and still be able to provide a great project is something that's going to be required if you want to work with government.
Gotcha. That's helpful. Ian, how about you?
Yeah, I think for me, it's definitely a unique environment for us. We actually started with DC Arts and Humanities as well. So we were doing a Poetry Out Loud competition in March, and that was a unique and I guess it was unique because that was my first like CBE experience because it was again a rapid fire opportunity, and then the other opportunity I feel was Murals DC with Nancy Lyons and Department of Works, being a consultant for that 2018 project where we did a lot of, I think we did 10 murals that year. And just being able to work in that space really gave me the opportunity to say, hey, being a CVE is great and working with the city government is also great, especially when you get that call. But even with some of the Sandlot projects that we've done, and even with Blind Wino, being able to communicate with DCRA and ABRA and the Office of Tax and Revenue, these are like entities that everyone in the city should be very familiar with. And I'm actually blessed to live directly next to OTR and DCRA, so I was always there. I spent a lot of time just really understanding what the process is. And that's, to me, the part of getting back to your question about, inquiring and just asking, because the worst that they could tell you is no, or you're doing something wrong. So definitely lead by example in that format.
Absolutely. Yeah. Closed mouths don't get fed. So definitely have to speak up. I guess my next question, based on just leading into what you all have mentioned about these projects, in your years of like collaborating with the city, what have you found to be the most effective ways to present your ideas or asks? When you think about the work that you've done thus far, whether you have the contract or are looking to partner and don't have a contract yet, but would like to share and say like, hey, I've got an idea that, I think would be great. What would you tell people when you're thinking about, when you are trying to, collaborate, or you have an idea that you think the city would be interested in?
Yeah, I think for me, it definitely echoes again on beautification of the city that raised me. Like if I have an idea or something that I feel the city government should have their stamp on, I'm going to put a presentation or a proposal together, something short and sweet, maybe even a digital deck or a website, so that way it can be shared, through text, through email, so many different, kind of mediums. But the overall goal is that, hey, if you're not going to work this specific project with me, then you'll work this specific project with someone else. But the end goal is to have this be something different in our community. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. How about you, Madia?
Yeah, I would like to answer this question through the lens of completing a deliverable. I think from my experience, I haven't pitched an idea or something that wasn't already part of a proposal or RFP. And so usually I would say the first thing is really understand the problem that you're trying to solve and really understand it from the pain point and the lens of your customer or the client, which will be the DC government agencies. So understanding, what their needs are, what their goals are, what their priorities are. And, I think one helpful thing is really kind of drilling down. I think every agency has like a strategic plan or a goal or targets that they're trying to accomplish. So if you can align your idea or what you're trying to accomplish with those larger vision and pillars, I think that will make the sell a lot easier. And then from when you get in there and you're actually doing the work, I think that what's so great about the opportunity is the collaboration and being able to work with a variety of different people from the agencies. But just, if you have a specific idea or you were given a request that you may not necessarily think is a feasible solution, or you may have another idea, I think one way to approach that is by first, showing your work. So if you have a request of something that somebody wants you to do, show them doing it their way, and then also showing it your way, and kind of talk through your reasoning and your idea of why you think this approach will work. And in my experience, when you approach it that way, you can a lot of times you can bring people over to your side, and you have a better understanding of your why, of why you're approaching it this way. So I definitely think that those main key things are important. And then understand that the people that you're working with are human, and in DC government, there's multiple priorities in addition to the priority that you're working on. And so just being flexible and nimble and being able to adjust to their environment, I think is very important.
Absolutely. I think to add to that, Madia, for anyone from a government side, from the government perspective, I know in the role that I have working in the deputy mayor's office, my role and priority is attracting businesses, creating jobs, strengthening relationships with community, government, local, national, international. And so, all of those things help us create a greater ecosystem. And so obviously we can't do that by ourselves. And so we're always looking for, innovation, new ideas. And oftentimes that doesn't necessarily mean that happens inside the office. And so, we welcome ideas and thoughts and concepts. What I would say for anyone who is trying to figure out, like, what's the art of, this is not the art of selling, this is more about engagement and, trying to share ideas, is that, for my preference, and I would think for most sitting on my side of the house, we want to make sure that you come prepared, right? Come prepared, have something. Ian, you mentioned it, like I'm going to have a presentation, probably going to have a website or whatever the case may be, but, have something, come prepared, meaning understand what it is that your concept is. How is it going to help others? Does it align with the current vision, plan, mission of the administration, the organization, the work that's currently taking place? So, making sure that you are someone that's on top of what's happening right now. And does it make sense with what is happening right now? Sometimes you might have a fantastic idea and the timing is off. It's not ready right now. We can't have that conversation in the fall, but most certainly we can talk about it in the spring, right? And so understanding that timing is critical. Do your homework, which means that you have to stay current, know what's happening, and then do your homework in terms of understanding who it is you're getting ready to speak to. And so I think that's also something that's very important. Are you talking to the right person in the agency that can either help advance your idea or help you shape it better? so that it is something that the city would be interested in investing in or partnering with or what have you. So I definitely would say that, from this side of the house, we welcome all kinds of ideas, but definitely come prepared to talk about, how does that align with the existing plans, mission, legislation that's taking place? What is the impact to residents? How is this advancing the work that's happening here in the city as we speak, right? Ian, it looks like you were about to say something.
I mean, yeah, it's almost like, last year you and I had connected on, a piece of property in Anacostia on 14th and U Street, Southeast. It was a property that was available for sale, and it fell within the prosperity zone quadrant or sector. And we're still in the midst of a pandemic, and a lot of those funds, and even using that as a secondary example, the Events DC Cultural Institution grant. There was a huge pot of money that was available, but because of COVID, a lot of that was depleted and got diverted to the emergency hospital at Washington Convention Center. So timing is definitely critical, and you do have to understand what budget season is, what that looks like from a DC Council perspective. All of that plays a factor into the ask, and it's not just a one-sided ask. So those are things that I think are pivotal in understanding the approach to city government.
Yeah, definitely. I think you hit it right on the head. There are, as a public servant, we have multiple masters, one being the residents, obviously, and the administration and the council, the elected officials. And so, we're always looking for things that are going to, speak to those concepts and plans that have been baked by our elected officials, the administration, and something that will most certainly benefit the residents and businesses here in the city. And so, if it meets those things, it falls in line with currently is in play. Obviously, those are things that we would most certainly would be interested in entertaining. I think also, oftentimes ideas that are being shared, while fantastic in the moment, again, the timing may be off, right? It could be, it doesn't mean no, and that's the end. It could be no, not right now, right? And that still shouldn't deter anyone from not trying to pitch an idea or a concept, because what that means is that you've planted a seed and you can potentially harvest that later. Right. And so I think it's important for everyone who is thinking about, like, how do I engage and try to have some of these conversations. Think about this is the long game. You're playing chess, not checkers. Right. And so thinking about how do you do that? And that definitely is getting to know people, having conversations, setting up meetings, understanding what their internal process is by agency. Every agency is different. And so you want to understand what is that, so that you can begin to engage in the way that they are, in the way that they review opportunities, ideas. And once you understand the behind the scenes of that, it becomes, it becomes a regular thing for you to begin to, to talk to government folks. I think all of us are always open and willing to speak and meet. I think I talk to Madia and Ian on a very regular basis, whether it's under a grant, a contract, or just bouncing ideas. All of the three have happened at some point in time in literally the last 2 weeks. Yeah. So it is possible. It does happen. We are. What'd you say, Ian?
It's almost like what you said earlier about, Madia mentioned, like, government workers are real people. They're actually, normal people that go out and have the same fun and experiences that you would have naturally. And I think that's the piece that a lot of people don't really connect with, like to be able to, come to Sandlot and have a cocktail, with folks that on Monday it's right back to business. It's the same, type of feeling. And those are things that make genuine relationships just flourish beyond.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, government employees are, like you said, we are human. We enjoy all the same things that everyone else enjoys. We have all similar preferences as well. It's about, okay, so how do we do this? And are genuinely looking for great partners, to speak to. So it's great when you can have that kind of connection with folks who are happy to reach out and speak. So I personally love it. um, um, because it only helps us increase our own impact in the work that we are tasked to do in helping our city. To that end, I'd love to talk about the opposite. What have you guys found to be the most ineffective tactics or approach or missteps that you have seen others or yourself? Are there things that you've learned along the way as you have worked with the city or engaged the city in a variety of ways? Thoughts?
I'll let Ian kick off with this one.
I knew it.
What hasn't worked?
Like, just from my experience of, reclaiming spaces, right? And, we went from the old DDOT building in 2011 on 14th Street, right below Florida. It's 25,000 square feet. We repurposed that into, another cultural space that we activated for 30 days with Brightest Young Things and Vitamin Water. It was a great experience because at that time, nobody was going down 14th Street. And if you're from here, you know why. 13, we turned around and did the old Friendship Baptist Church. Again, it was abandoned for 20 years. And then, we went through DCRA and all the proper zoning, got our certificate of occupancy. And then our first night, every agency in the city shows up, fire and EMS, DCRA, ABRA, ORM, you name it, they were there, but everything checked out because we follow the rules. 2015, same kind of format down on 8th Street, an abandoned fashion warehouse, 18,000 square feet on 7th and 8th Street Northeast. Again, it was just vacant and we activated it. And then ABRA came and we didn't have the proper licensing on our first night. So there's so many just steps. And my point is that not everything is a building, right? When you think of it from a regulatory perspective, and when there's a way that you can create activity and create or spur some type of cultural experiential in a non-traditional format, there has to be a way to, and I don't want to use the word expedite because I know that word is a tough word to use when in DCRA perspective, but there has to be a way to speed up that regulatory process where it doesn't take 6 to 8 months to just understand that, yes, this zoning area is for a restaurant, but you know what? It's not a restaurant. It's not going to be a restaurant no time soon because of whatever issues. So maybe we can create some type of music component or some other type of use without having to go through the zoning commission or BZA, which again is a whole nother process. Those are the things that I think are challenging when it comes to city officials and city agencies that I'm pretty confident if we all just get on the same page, we can make a huge impact in our city.
Yeah, no,
I
agree.
think that, Ian, you bring up a good point, just understanding, especially if you're trying to do work with local government, like what are the different certifications and permits and things that you need to have in place and even to do the work to begin with. And I think that especially if you're trying to, play in this space, understanding what those things are and making sure that you keep those things up to date, but also understanding to Ian's part, some of the challenges that might come along with, trying to get things expedited or when you need to have stuff. And so just understanding that component of it is an important part when trying to work with local government.
Absolutely. Yeah, makes sense. I think also from the lens of someone who is, always interested in connecting, I prefer even in concepts or ideas, that there's something that's realistic, that is something that's actually doable. And whoever is proposing an idea or a concept, they actually can deliver, and also, I think for me, a non-starter is a concept without any skin in the game from the person who is telling me what the idea is. So I need to know, okay, so and your role would be, and what are you bringing to this idea, as opposed to saying, hi, district government, here's the idea. Just give me the money and then we can go be great. And so, like, I think that's probably one surefire way to turn anyone off, because you want it to be a partnership, and that isn't a partnership. And so I think that's one thing that, we are constantly, looking at as we, are entertaining ideas or concepts or looking for new partnerships. I do want to pivot a little bit. I know, like, basically what I've heard is, obviously thinking about, like, what's the worst that could happen? It's a no. Secondly, know who you're speaking to, being prepared, have an idea, understand what are the gains for that, what's the impact for that, does it align with what the administration is working on, the agency is working on at the time, planting seeds, harvesting later, meaning that, i.e. patience, right? Got to have some, because you are playing a kind of the long game. You guys have really strong brands, and both of you guys are CBEs. Can you guys explain how the CBE process or being a CBE has potentially helped you in your businesses?
Sure. So essentially, CBE is a certified business enterprise. And so basically, if you are a CBE, you will receive preference points for procurement opportunities offered by the city. But in order for you to get it, you have to meet certain eligibility criteria. One being that your principal office have to be in DC, but there is a slew of other requirements that you have to meet. And so one of the benefits of being a CBE is that, to the point I mentioned before, there are some requirements that for certain projects over a certain value amount, there has to be CBEs on the project. And so that creates opportunity for, if you are a CBE, to work on certain projects that you may not necessarily have an opportunity. So for myself, being a CBE has allowed us to work on and partner and subcontract with larger entities who needed to have the CBE requirement in order to do work with the city. And so, for example, we've had an opportunity to subcontract with McKinsey on a large contract. And those are big brands and names that, without having that certification, it has made us more attractive in being able to partner and be able to do the work on certain projects. So I definitely think that there's a benefit of being a CBE, and we'll definitely encourage anyone who's interested to go through the process to get that certification.
How about you, Ian?
Yeah, I mean, she nailed it. Like, my experience with going through the CBE process, I've always heard about it. And, just as time went on, really wanting to do more with the city, and, deciding in 2015 to get my CBE, and just, really naturally just understanding the Green Book and understanding where these opportunities reside, and knowing that the city has to, spend X amount of dollars of the budget with CBEs, and even though I'm in the the event field and event production, and those are categories that a lot of folks don't look to for CBEs, but it's still a niche market where all it takes is just that one agency to say, you know what, Ian, we're going to work with you, for the rest of your life. And that's life changing. Those are things that a lot of CVs, there's a lot of CV success stories. And I will say that that's one thing that everyone should want to partake in, especially if you're a minority, to really understand what that can be. It doesn't always have to be consumer facing. it can be agency facing, and again, just change the trajectory of your business like overnight.
Absolutely. I would definitely agree. I know when when entrepreneurs are looking to, share a concept or wanting to partner, one of the first things that I typically ask is, are you a CBE?
Yeah.
Because if I'm asking you that, then you probably got me,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm like, oh my gosh, we figure how can we make some things happen, but that is definitely one of the first things. Are you a CBE? And while I do want to flag and make sure that everyone who's listening is understands that you do not have to be a CBE to do business to partner with the district. However, it is, I would definitely recommend it, but it is not a requirement. But most certainly would recommend it because, as you hear, being a CBE, having that designation, definitely gives you additional preference points, particularly when there are different bids out here, opportunities that are available. We most certainly are always going to look to identifying CBEs for particular projects. And, those are the submissions that definitely rise to the top more often than not. But again, you do not have to be a CBE to partner with the district, but it is definitely something that I would, I say would be a preference, But, I know we're coming to the end of this lovely conversation because I think all three of us can talk all day.
All day.
All day, literally. And I've truly had such an amazing time with you two because I'm talking to two creatives, one who has mastered the art of telling stories through a variety of methods, and another who is creating these amazing experiences for people across the city. And so you guys are definitely blazing these trails that folks, these uncharted territory that folks just haven't yet. And so you all are in unique positions, obviously, to help other folks who are like, I need to do what they're doing. What is the secret sauce? But with that being said, I'm curious if you guys have any takeaways for folks who are trying to do what you all do, because both of you have relationships with the city in a variety of ways, whether it's contractual or just just ongoing engagement, that there are people that you are able to reach out to and just to have conversations and bounce ideas off of. And I think that's what a lot of people are looking for. And so what would you tell people now who are looking to step into do exactly what you're doing? What would you tell folks? What would be some of your takeaways?
I would say be patient, but be patient, but be diligent. And I say that because I became a CBE and started that process back in 2014, but I didn't get my first contract until 2017. So that was 3 years. But during that time, I was hitting the ground, meeting people, having conversations, going to workshops, actually learning the lingo. So my background, I never worked in government. I worked in media. And so when you want to work with government, it's a whole other, like, I literally went to school to really understand, how to even understand the lingo and what things means, and, and understanding how government works. I think, in order to be successful working with government, there has to be some level of understanding of how it works and how you can work in there. And so I would say be patient, be diligent, but also understanding that, it's really about relationship building. And if you think about how you build relationship in real life, it doesn't happen overnight. And it's a gradual, process and constant communicating. And so there's a lot of layers in that, but as long as you're consistent, you're diligent, you're patient, but at the same time, you're focused, it will happen. But just know, like, I've met people and I've gone to workshops. It's like, they literally decided yesterday that they want to work with government. And they're like, well, how come I can't get contracts? Or how come I'm not having these relationships? And they have to understand that it's a process. And so as long as you become a student of the process, it will happen. but just know that, it's going to take time for you to really understand the lay of the land, understand how to work it, understand, and make sure that you yourself are ready. I think that's a big part of that. Understanding that you have the capacity, because when government comes, can you, and they call, can you answer?
You deliver?
And can you deliver? And I think that that's a huge part. And so during those 3 years, that's what I did. Is like, yes, I already had my certification, but I was really working it to understand and prepare myself. So when the opportunity came, I was prepared.
How about you, Ian?
You got to be prepared for that blessing, Yeah, it's very much in sync. I think consistency is probably the key word that I'll use, and also just authenticity and geniality. Those are the three words that I use in almost every kind of pitch or presentation is authenticity, geniality, and community. But I almost feel like consistency should also be in that array of words, just because most people are driven by money. Others are driven by sustainability. Like us, we just want to be able to sustain a project and just have fun with it. I was in the government sector when I came out of college. I graduated from Drexel University with an engineering and IT degree, and I spent about 2 years working for the Department of Defense doing information assurance and systems engineering. And it was great money. It was a 23-year-old in the city at that time. Those were the golden years. 15 years ago. I'm dating myself, but it wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't fulfilling in any capacity. So I stuck with what I loved, which was collecting sneakers and throwing events, and just crafted that over, the past 15 years. And now we're, kind of still doing the same thing I was doing back then, but just in a different formula. But the fulfillment is there, and you got to do what makes you happy. Don't do what someone else wants you to do to make them happy. So those are, just some of the things that I feel folks have access to achieving. And then even, as far as Madia and myself, like, we're always accessible. It's never like, you'll never hear me. I'm not the type of person that says, "Oh no, I don't have time to meet with you," or you gotta pay me to spend time with you or consult. Like, not. I didn't have. I mean, people are like that, but I didn't have that access as a kid, or even as a young adult. So I want people to be instilled with the tools and the blueprints to duplicate the same works that I've done or am doing currently, so that, again, our city can be the best city in the country, if not, the world.
Absolutely. I think that's helpful. And so I think what I heard, as I'm summing up what both of you said, I heard authenticity, I heard genealogy, I heard consistency, I heard patience. I heard, make sure you're ready, because when they come, they are coming. This is true.
Yeah.
So, be prepared. Also, what's the worst that can happen? So, I would love to remove the fear from any equation that, in approaching anyone with an idea or concept and wanting to partner with the city. We do have an open door policy. Obviously, I'm someone, you can most certainly reach out to me at any time and shoot an email or, smoke signal if necessary. But to that end, absolutely. We're coming to the end of our conversation. I wanted to thank again Ian Callender and Madia Brown. Ian, can you tell everybody where they can reach you? If there's an Instagram, social media, LinkedIn, how can people connect with you?
Yeah, I think I do the Instagram thing a little bit.
A little?
Just a little bit. Ian I Can on all social media platforms. That's IANEYECAN. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Smoke Signal. Like, you name it, you can find me. Sandlot Southeast. Sandlot Georgetown, and Arena Social, which is a new nonprofit arts club supporting Black artists and artists of color coming to Barracks Row probably in the next 30 days. But that's Arena Social DC.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ian. And Madia, how can people reach and connect with you?
Yep. So I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, and it's Brandire Agency, one word. And you can reach me there. And you can reach me through my personal profile on LinkedIn as well. So it's Madia Brown.
Fantastic. And for myself, my email address, sybongile.cook@dc.gov. And then I'm on all social media, and it's just Sybongile C. So you can reach me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. They're all the same, and it's just little old me. But with that, I want to thank you two lovely humans for being here with us today, sharing some thoughts and ideas around how you all were able to connect and partner with the city in more ways than one. We thank you for everything that you do. Personally, I do, because it's been a joy and a pleasure being able to talk to thought leaders in our community that are doing amazing things, and both of you guys are, and most certainly we appreciate it. So once again, thank you guys for being here. I think this closes out our conversation around our Business Over Brand Digital Summit on how to build effective partnerships with district government. So with that, we end and say thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.